Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. May 11th, 2018.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate filling in for Dr. Savage. He will be back on Monday. In the meantime, check out michaelsavage.com for all the latest headlines and subscribe to the Savage newsletter. You will not be disappointed. It is delivered free to your inbox. Well, what a week it was, boy, I'll tell you, for President Donald J. Trump, who, as you know, found his voice here at the Savage Nation when no one else would give him a platform. Dr. Savage gave Donald Trump his first national exposure to you, the Savage Nation, and the American people, and all around the world, because the Savage Nation has listeners all around the world, thanks to the Internet as well. The number one streamed show on radio, by the way. Just pat ourselves on the back for that one. But a week it was that Donald Trump, the 5 heads of ISIS have been captured. 3 prisoners released from the Hermit Kingdom in North Korea. A meeting set for June 12th with Kim Jong-un, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, June 12th is the day that Ronald Reagan made that famous statement, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Okay? We have all of this positive going on. We have Donald Trump's rally basically kicking off the 2018 midterm election season in Terre Haute, Indiana last night. A very raucous crowd. I love off the script President Trump. He's best at that. So we have all of this good news coming. If Israel standing up for itself against the Iranian forces coming at them out of Syria. This after Donald Trump pulled out of the Iran deal, which is a horrible deal. And ironically, people like Senator Chuck Schumer, who was adamantly against it, argued with then-President Barack Obama about how bad of a deal it was, voted against it in the Senate. Now this week, all of a sudden, he's for it. Kind of like John Kerry. You know, I was for it before I was against it. And speaking of which, John Kerry, going behind the back of our country, going behind your back, trying to undermine the president, trying to keep that Iran deal alive. I mean, it is truly, truly amazing. Everything that I just laid out for you are great for President Trump. They're great for you, the listeners to the Savage Nations. Wonderful for our country and the security of the world, yet the Democrats think it's all bad. Chuck Schumer thinks it's bad. John Blarney Stone Brennan, where he thinks every day St. Patrick's Day, thinks it's bad. Nancy Pelosi thinks it's bad. Over at MSNBC, we'll talk more about that later, Haley Jackson and crew think it's bad. You know the release of the prisoners, the release from North Korea, they gave it 30 seconds on MSNBC. So we have all of these, and let's face it, MSNBC is an extension of the Democratic Party. So we have the Democrats rooting against Trump, rooting against America, rooting against you, yet they want your vote in November 2018. Are these people delusional? I mean, Dr. Savage wrote that, and he often says that liberalism is a mental disorder. I'm starting to think that's almost an understatement. And Dr. Savage wrote about all of this in Trump's War, his battle for America. Again, ahead of his time. The enemy's within, right from the beginning. So, again, he was a year ahead or more talking about the things that we are talking about now. Not only did he talk about it, but he put it in the book. Trump's War, His Battle for America. It's classic. So it's amazing that this is going on. Coming up a little later, we're going to play audio of all of these people making these comments. So I'd like to know from you, the listeners to the Savage Nation, what do you think about the media rooting against goodness for the world, goodness for the country? We have the American Embassy opening up in Jerusalem. Ivanka Trump is heading that way. I believe Jared Kushner's mother is going along with her. This is a nice thing. They have a square right near where the embassy is. They're going to call it United States Square. Not even Trump Square. United States Square. And we have the Palestinians lining up on the border, burning tires so they can shield themselves from sniper attacks, but they want to try to burst through the fence that's there to cause mayhem as this is going on. And all I hear from the left is, this is bad. Okay? What Trump is doing is not good. John Brennan says he's being duped by North Korea. And while this is all going on, something that you might not have noticed, although actually you have noticed it because it's the Savage Nation listeners, smartest listeners on radio, there has been a changing of momentum when it comes to who is going to gain seats, who is going to lose seats comes November 2018. Just a little snippet for you. In February, when they talked about the blue wave, the blue tsunami that was coming, kind of reminds me of election night when they were talking about the blue wall. We know what happened there. Back in February of 2018, the Democrats held a 16-point lead, just as a general question, who do you favor in the midterm election, Democrats or Republicans? 16-point advantage over the Republicans. Now remember, all they had going for them at that time was the tax cut. They had failed to repeal and replace Obamacare because of John McCain. We'll talk about him a little later, and Rudy Giuliani, and we'll talk about him later as well, not to overlap the two. I know Dr. Savage talked extensively about John McCain yesterday, and I think he hit the nail right on the head. It's going to give you some of my views on that as well. But all they had going for them in February was the tax cuts. Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, no friend of you, the American people, no friend of our President Donald J. Trump, were making backroom deals to do, Ides of March, Julius Caesar, stabbing him in the back at every chance they get while smiling on TV, pretending to support him. But then, the momentum started to change. And I truly think it began to change very accidentally when Donald Trump, how he's meeting with Kim Jong-un and how that came to be. One of the leaders from South Korea was in the White House, and as presidents do, they stick their head in to say hello. It's a courtesy gesture. Someone's in your house, you're not going to say hello. You have to. And when he went in there and they're like, hey, you should meet, I think a reporter shouted it or something. You should meet with Kim Jong-un. He's like, yeah, I will. I mean, it was just very flippant, off the cuff, and that's when Trump's at his best. And from there, things changed. You look at a sporting event and they say, when was the momentum changer? That was the momentum changer. Because then the talk started of Donald Trump meeting with North Korea, and things just kind of started to fall into place. The Olympics were behind us, and all of the criticism that Mike Pence received for not, kissing up to the sister of Kim Jong-un, and it all then started to fall into place. All of a sudden, Kim Jong-un started to come around, basically because also at that time the sanctions were coming into play. And, not only, he doesn't care if his people starve, but he was losing resources. He was starving. And as I've said every time I'm here on the Savage Nation and this comes up, the guy wants to be the celebrity leader. He wants to be the celebrity dictator. That's what he wants. He wants to be beloved. I know he wants to be in that group photo with Merkel and Macron and Trump and Abe and Xiaoping. He wants to be with all of them. This is all that he wants. He wants acceptance. So all of that combined with the fact that the sanctions are really, giving him a kick in the tail, it's amazing that he started to come around. Excuse me. How many people even knew that these three prisoners were in North Korea being held on some kangaroo trumped-up charges that, working in hard labor, one of them there for 2.5 years? No one knew. And then now they're home. A huge victory. It's like one thing right after. I'll meet with Kim Jong-un. Okay, that thing starts the ball rolling. And then we have to look at this Iran deal, the worst deal ever. Macron's in town, Merkel's in town. You know, Trump told both of them there, they were there to try to convince him to stay, that he was not going to stay in it. Yet, when they left town, Macron still loved Trump. He didn't leave angry. Merkel, who is no friend of Trump, I don't even think she likes the man, she even left on good terms with him. You have to wonder, what did he say? What did he say to these people that they didn't get what they came for, yet they still left happy? It's like the ultimate salesman. It's pretty incredible. I got to give him credit on that. And then he pulls out, and all you have is the media, and all you have is the other side of the aisle complaining. And then you have his own side of the aisle complaining. Okay, John McCain and others saying this is a bad deal. What is it? What's a bad deal? Pulling out of Iran is a bad deal. Meeting with Kim Jong-un is a good deal. Meanwhile, the president's approval ratings ticking up. Some say 43%, some say 46%. Not a bad deal. That's high for Trump. You got to remember. But with all of this and all of this Stormy Daniels stuff that's going on that no one's paying attention to anymore, and Robert Mueller running around chasing phantom crimes, doesn't even know what he's looking for. I feel like Robert Mueller is, the cat with the red laser that you put the red laser on the wall, and people like to torture cats by making them jump up and down. They put it on YouTube and Instagram as if it's funny, but I think it's animal torture. So it's like the media has this little red laser dot, and they put it in, they go here, go there, go here, go there, and Mueller's running around chasing this, chasing that. But at the end of the day, he's actually chasing anything. So the Democrats and the media, same difference. They're rooting against Trump. They're rooting against America. They're rooting against you, yet they want your vote. And how is this affecting you? Of course, the Trump supporters, I know where you stand. I want to hear from the moderates out there. I know there's some of you out there who didn't vote for Trump, but you listen to the Savage Nation to get all of your honest information. And remember, all of what I'm talking about now with the Democrats rooting against Trump, America, and you was all covered in Trump's war, the battle for America. 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. My name is Lou Pate. I'm here with Team Savage. They're working hard, doing a great job as always, and we invite you into the discussion here at the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
It was great to see them come home, be back in America, back with their families. It's a wonderful thing. But the exaltation by the president and others of the greatness of North Korea doing this evades me. We can't be fooled into giving the North Korean regime credit for returning Americans that never should have been detained in the first place. American citizens are not diplomatic bargaining chips. So while we celebrate the return of the 3 Americans for the sake of their freedom and their families, we should not feel like we need to give Kim Jong-un anything in return.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation. Lou Pate in for Dr. Savage. He will be back on Monday. In the meantime, check out michaelsavage.com for all your latest headlines and subscribe to the Savage newsletter. That was the voice of the illustrious one, Chuck Schumer. To our friends listening on WABC, where I have many former coworkers and friends, he's all yours, Brooklyn. You can have him. Chuck Schumer. Listen, Donald Trump got these 3 men back, okay, without spending a nickel. Mike Pompeo, too. He went twice. He took a ride over there twice. It's not exactly around the corner, North Korea. He went over there over the Easter weekend, Easter Passover overlap weekend, and then he went again to bring the men home this time. Didn't cost a nickel. President Obama paid $1.8 billion, okay? $1.8 billion to get hostages back. Remember the skids of cash that one of them photographed on the plane? Where was Chuck Schumer then? I didn't hear from him then. Maybe he was getting new hair plugs. I don't know. And we have the other success of the week that you don't hear coming. 5 senior ISIS officials captured in an Iraqi U.S. sting. They used an app. It involved phone apps and the breaking of secret bank accounts and communication codes. They basically tricked them into showing up someplace, much like district attorneys do all around the country when they say, hey, you know, they get people who are out there on outstanding warrants. Hey, you know, come here, get Yankee tickets, just show up. You know, come here, get Dodger tickets, just show up. And they show up and they arrest them because there's no tickets to be had. It was a similar thing like that. Pretty amazing. Let's go to Sue, WTMA in South Carolina. You're on the Savage Nation with Lou Pate. How are you?
Yes, hi, doing fine. First of all, I'd like to say that I come from a long line of Republicans. My grandfather served in World War II. I had a great-grandfather that served in World War I, and many family members that served in Vietnam. My father is a, hardcore Republican, and he voted for Trump. I did not. So I'm not really sure that you'll like what I have to say, but
yeah, you know, listen. I got to tell you this, Sue. Unlike many intolerant Democrats out there, I might disagree with you, but I'm not going to dislike what you say or dislike you simply because we disagree. We save that for the other side. But first, are you not a Republican?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm a Democrat. But I have moderate Republican tendencies. So, you know, I guess maybe I'm an independent. I'm just kind of I don't agree with a lot of the liberal views, and
it sounds to me, Sue, like you're just open-minded.
I am.
So what? Okay, go on. The floor is yours. You said I wouldn't like what you were going to say.
Well, I just can't turn a blind eye to what everything that Robert Mueller is doing right now. I think that, he's a Republican, and he. I think that there's a lot of validity behind, his investigation.
Yeah, but wait, just quickly. He hasn't come up with a shred of evidence on anything. You say validity. There's nothing there, Sue.
Right, but he hasn't presented his case yet.
Because he can't find anything. He's on a fishing expedition now. I mean, I'm sorry, we're out of time, Sue. No disrespect intended. Believe me, if there was proof, it'd be out there. I got to run. Lou Pate here with you. It's the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Welcome back. It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate here with you in for Dr. Savage. He will be back on Monday, but you can get your fill of Dr. Savage. There's a lot of great stuff going on at michaelsavage.com. You can get your latest headlines, subscribe to the newsletter, and Dr. Savage has many, many great articles up there, and there's still some pictures up there from when he was in the Oval Office presenting his book, Trump's War, and other things to the president, along with his lovely bride. Great pictures there. If you haven't seen them, and if you have seen them, go look at them again, because they're worth a second look. 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-SAVAGE. It's perplexing. We have Nancy Pelosi saying she's going to get rid of the tax cuts, a.k.a. raise your taxes if the Democrats take over the House and she gets back in there as Speaker. We hear that capturing the 5 heads of ISIS, a meeting with Kim Jong-un, pulling out of the Iran deal, which we all know was a bad deal, are all bad things. They're all negative things. All right, our number one ally in the Middle East region standing up for itself after the terrorist-supporting nation of Iran launched 20 missiles into their territory in the Golan Heights. We hear that this is bad because they defended themselves. It's an amazing phenomenon. They just say things. Everything is about politics. Everything that as Trump is doing, they say is bad, when in fact it is good for you individually, it's good for the nation as a whole, and it's excellent for the world as a whole. So I said before, the Democrats are rooting against Trump, they're rooting against America, they're rooting against you, and yet they want your vote. It's mind-numbing how this is going on, and people will still vote for them. But what is not being reported is the fact that the gap is narrowing. The gap between the Democrats and the Republicans, as I mentioned earlier, 16 points in February, now down to 3. It's being downplayed in the media. Look, as is the return of the prisoners. 3 a.m., when the 3 a.m. call came the other day, Donald Trump, the First Lady, Melania, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, all there, 2:50 in the morning, meeting these men who had just traveled from North Korea after gaining their freedom because of the work of President Trump and Mike Pompeo, and I'm sure a lot of other people behind the scenes who deserve credit and don't get it in the news. Yet, somehow this is a bad thing. Chuck Schumer says it's bad. What's his name? Blarney Stone Brennan says he's being duped. Before we get to Brennan, Clint, let's play number 16. This is Haley Jackson of MSNBC. They couldn't for 1 second put it down. They even had to spin negatively 3 people who I feel will put in prison unnecessarily, getting their freedom back. 16, please, Clint.
It was a moment of intense anticipation. You had it all sort of very carefully choreographed, right? The vice president landed, the president, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and then that plane carrying these 3 American citizens. What was sort of striking in the moment, and you've talked already about the geopolitical implications of this, what this means for the summit moving forward between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. But what was striking was that listen, Donald Trump's a former reality show producer. This was a staged production meant for television, meant for the cameras, meant to be shown and seen here in this country and around the world.
Yeah, and when Obama had Bo Bergdahl, the traitor's parents, in the Rose Garden, no, that wasn't. But that's Haley Jackson, you know. Also on MSNBC, you had Nicole Wallace, another nepotism hire. Look at all the nepotism hires they got. You got Mika, who is Carter's foreign security advisor. I forget his title. That's his daughter, Nicole Wallace, you know, from Mike Wallace, that family. No wonder they can't get any quality going on there. But here we have John Brennan. Okay, John Brennan hates Donald Trump, almost on a level of John McCain. Maybe it's the name John. I don't know what it is. But I believe that these men truly hate Donald Trump because they're jealous of him. They truly are, because he is accomplishing things that when Brennan had his shot, he failed. And McCain, well, let's face it, he failed in life. His aspiration was to become president, and he just didn't have it, and he was rejected by the American people. Okay? And when he went up in late 90s, 99, 2000, when McCain went up against the Bush machine, man, they just shredded him to make room for George W. Bush. But more on that later. And don't take this the wrong way. I am not bad-mouthing a man who is on his deathbed, okay? I am just speaking accuracies about things that went on in his life. I don't think it's fair for someone, when it's sad for the family, it's sad for the children, the grandchildren, the wife, that someone is at the end of their life. But they shouldn't take advantage of that, knowing that we as Americans are not going to pile on someone who is at the end. But when they take advantage of that by slinging arrows at everyone, not going out with dignity, I'm sorry. All bets are off on that. It's a shame. It's a shame. Have some class. Have some dignity. I mean, think about your family. You had your whole life to yell and scream and make your point. Don't take cheap pot shots because you know people can't fire back the way they'd want to because they're trying to be respectful to your family. Okay, one person did, but it's repugnant. But anyway, let's number 5 here. This is John Blarney Stone Brennan, where every day is St. Patrick's Day, I like to say, talking about Trump being duped.
I do think that Kim Jong-un, who I despise because of the brutality that he has put upon the North Korean people, but unfortunately I think he has been masterful in how he has manipulated perceptions and how he's manipulated and quite frankly duped Mr. Trump. I hope that a summit meeting is going to result in a denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
What are the odds?
I think they're probably, less than 0.1%.
And you're basing that on what? The latest shot of bourbon, or what? Just your hatred of Trump? He goes on. Clip number 6, please, Clint.
I think they're probably, less than 0.1%. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he is going to pause. He has worked over the last, 6 years, and then his father worked, to have this nuclear capability as a way to deter foreign military aggression led by the United States and South Korea. I don't see any scenario that he is going to give that up quickly, willingly. And so I think what he's trying to do is to, again, present an appearance of accommodation. He is going to put on pause a program that already has developed a nuclear stockpile. He has ballistic missile capability already. And so if he says he's not going to do anything more, I think it's going to buy him time. And what he's trying to do is to get sanctions relaxed so that he can help his economy while maintaining that nuclear capability. And this is going to drag on.
You know what John Brennan is doing there? The success of Trump's meeting this coming June 12th with Kim Jong-un cannot be measured in full for months or years down the road. So to make that statement that I just played for you here on the Savage Nation is kind of like hiding behind the big kid in a sense that, of course, he's buying time, because now that gives you're the one buying time. Just the fact that he went down to the demilitarized zone, shook hands with the head of South Korea, stepped over the line, held hands with the man, and walked and smiled was monumental. It was historic. Just because the media decided not to cover it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It's not the proverbial tree that falls in the forest. It happened. Okay, and that has now led to the release of the prisoners, which has now led to the June 12th meeting. The media and the Democratic Party is going insane over the success that Donald Trump is having. They don't want him to be successful. They did not want these three men to get their freedom. They want this meeting with Kim Jong-un to fail. What John Brennan is saying in that clip is what he wants to be. He wants Trump to be duped. He wants there to be less than 1% of a chance that he gets rid of his nukes. What he won't tell you is that the Iran deal was a mess created by former President Barack Obama. The North Korea mess is a combination of a problem that was created by Bill Clinton with the help of Jimmy Carter. This is President Trump cleaning up the messes of two previous Democratic presidents, and they want him to fail. I'll just tell you quickly. I spoke to a liberal friend and said, close to peace on the Korean Peninsula, and the instant answer was not yet. Like, that was instinct, because they don't want it. Because peace on the Korean Peninsula under Trump means Trump gets the credit. Screw the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about peace. Remember, Trump was in the Oval Office on the cabinet meeting the other day, and they said, do you think you deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? He said, some people say I do, but I will never say it. And then he reacted. Boom. He said, what I want is, something for the world. He wants peace for the world. And it was a great response. I'm paraphrasing it there. I don't have it all down. But that was the perfect response. It's not about awards. Awards are nice, I guess. I never got one, so I couldn't tell you. Let's get to the phones. Let's go to George, KAOK, Louisiana. Welcome to the Savage Nation with Lou Pate. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. I'd just like to say that I'd like to suggest to DirecTV or maybe Dish Network that why don't they just reclassify CNN as maybe like reality TV right there with Jerry Springer or maybe entertainment TV like Tonight, because it has long since forgotten how to be a news channel. When you can ignore things like the release of Americans from a communist country and the capture of the greatest enemy of the American people right now, the ISIS leaders, and then you've got a prostitute, which I guess we're supposed to designate the difference between an adult film actress and a prostitute, but to me, it's all sex for sale. And you're going to run that till we're blue in the face, and then you're going to call yourself a news organization? That's ridiculous.
All right, let me ask you this, George. Why is the left actively rooting for failure with Trump's North Korean trip?
I have no idea, because we can give pallets of money and like you say, free a traitor who everybody in his unit said was a traitor, and that's big news and a great victory. And you know, I guess I couldn't be a Democratic strategist, because if they'd come to me and ask me to spin this, I'd just say, guys, I'm sorry, I got nothing.
No, you tell the truth, and they wouldn't want to hear it, George.
Yeah, and as far as the Russian thing, I mean, Trump right now is going toe-to-toe with Putin over Syria.
Yes,
so
he is.
If Hillary was in there, she would be filling up the next pallet of $100 bills. So how in the world do they get us to expect that Putin preferred Trump than Hillary?
I'll tell you this, George. It's telling that the Clinton Global Initiative went out of business the minute she lost that election. I mean, the funds dried up almost instantly because she couldn't sell her influence anymore. So, yeah, that's what she'd be doing. The 100 would be stacking up. But, George, thanks for your call. But it is a great question. Why is the left actively rooting for the failure with Trump's North Korean war? And with this, are they hurting themselves? You know, taking this stand, or, you know, is it energizing their base, or is it energizing the Republican base? 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Let's go out to San Francisco, Dr. Savage's flagship there, KSFO. Stephanie, welcome to the show. How are you, Stephanie?
Hi, Lou. Thanks for taking my call.
Welcome back.
Thanks. I just wanted to make a quick...
I remember you. I have a memory of an elephant. I remember you. You called the last time I was on, or the time before.
Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to make a real quick comment on what you had said about Merkel and the French president being pleased even though they didn't get what they wanted.
Yes.
My feeling is they did get what they wanted, or they knew what they were going to be getting ahead of time. They needed to come, they needed to save face, they needed to be the diplomatic ones, and whether they had discussed it with Trump ahead of time or not, they came here, they're perfectly happy to let him be the bad guy, him take the lead, and possibly to talk about how this was going to lay out on a global scale.
Oh, so they were only kind of like, it's a guise. They really like what he's doing. Unbelievable. Well, Stephanie, thanks for your call. Got to take a quick break. Lou Pate here with you. It's the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now. 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Welcome back. It's the Savage Nation. Lou Pate in for Dr. Savage, who will return on Monday. And make a note that a lot of what we are talking about with the Democrats who are rooting against America, rooting against Trump being successful, rooting against you, rooting against the world, rooting against freedom of 3 Americans coming back from North Korea, rooting for failure in the meeting with Kim Jong-un, is all in Trump's war, his battle for America. Dr. Savage was ahead of his time with that one. Ben writes in on Twitter, that caller is misinformed. Merkel and crew are hardcore socialists. They are a part of the problem. Their dislike for Trump is genuine as he goes against their one world socialist utopia. Oh boy, I'll tell you. It goes, I'm telling you, it's interesting the way Europe is reacting. It's interesting the way the world is all of a sudden looking out for our allies. No one has been able to really say how this is hurting our allies. Yeah, I know there's some financial issues, there's oil and things of that nature, but when it comes to safety, when it comes to peace, no, it's all politics. People in America, maybe even around the world, especially in the Democrats, most certainly many on the Republican side, for some strange reason, would rather have chaos and disorder than have Trump be successful. They'd rather have Americans locked up in a foreign land than have Trump be successful. Oh, and as we go to the top of the hour, if you're holding, please continue to hold. We're going to get to your calls on the other side at 855-400-SAVAGE. It bears mentioning Otto Warmbier, the American college student who was killed by the North Koreans. Who knows how? We don't know. We can only imagine the unspeakable measures that they tortured him to death. These 3 men came home and they're free. We're happy for them. We're happy for the president's success. But don't forget Otto Warmbier. His parents mourn his loss every day. We'll continue on the other side. Lou Pate in for Dr. Savage. We'll be back on Monday. Go to michaelsavage.com for the latest headlines and subscribe to the Savage newsletter. This is the Savage Nation.
We will have so much winning that you may get bored with winning.
Savage.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.